comments you would like to make very briefly, and then we'll enter into the questions?
More interested in hearing questions.
Okay, so we will take questions now.
This question is for John Jansen. I'm interested in knowing how people access medical care, and how many people do you think actually can get care from Western medical centers versus traditional? I know it seems like it's a real mix in some cases, but I'm just trying to get a sense of how many people actually do resort to profits or Ugandas or whoever's available on that level, and how many people go to other biomedical facilities.
How do people access medical care? They walk. They, if they have a friend with a motorcycle, that might be a way. Or if they have a friend or access to a vehicle, they might take that. And they tend to go to the highest, most competent medical expert that's within reach or within means. So if you live 10 miles from the nearest health post, and you know that the nurse is missing in action, you probably go to the referral hospital if you can afford it. And if you are a person of means, of greater means, you probably want to go to Kinshasa or Kempesi or Matadi to go to the really competent physician. So there's a whole elite in the region that goes to Dr. Kapita Bila in Kinshasa when they have serious ailments. And however, the local health centers do a good business if you get, we know this from firsthand experience. My dear wife contracted malaria, and the housekeeper recognized it as malaria, and we found someone to take her to the Catholic center in town, and Dr. Rose gave her personal attention and recommended an IV drug for fever, which brought the fever down immediately, and then a cure which was successful. So people know at which level there is which competence, and this health zone hierarchy works in principle, but oftentimes the lone staff member in the poste de santé is not a good place to go, and they often don't have the right medications, and really, but the system is designed so that the committee, the citizens committee, alerts the hierarchy to the fact that there's problems in the clinic. And so this citizens committee model is really quite amazing. And the picture I showed was of a group of these committees up at the post-central level for training and complaining. And so I think the health zone is a structure that was designed over the course of many trials and errors by the WHO, and this exists worldwide in many countries, and it's quite amazing to see it survive the collapse of the state and the state's complete alienation from its responsibilities. So now people would go to a diviner or a prophet diviner if there are any one of a number of sort of other issues going on, like malaria and dissent in the household. You know, that's a bad combination. So maybe you go to a diviner to help deal with this conflict. Or if you have series of children die, that's really a case for a diviner. And just bad dreams or just bad vibes. You can't get a job, or so that list, the 17 cases, is just a cross-section of the kinds of things that can go on. So there is definitely a perceived need for the biomedical institutions and the inspirational diviners, and a great deal of self-medication from the pharmacy, from the plants in the landscape, from whatever source you can activate. Does that answer your question?
I think so, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, John, I want to say that I much enjoyed your presentation because it brings out the syncretistic quality of therapies. And I think this could serve as a metaphor for many of the political movements that you have throughout the Kongo area. And there are two patterns that I heard, particularly in view of the presentation of Joran Voss. Forgive me if I name your name. In the end, there are two paths, it seems to me, that are discernible in the history of the Kongo people. One is a situation where, as you pointed out, the kingship becomes manipulated by the colonial state and becomes a vehicle for colonial expansion. But there is the opposite pattern in which local chiefs or nascent politicians manipulate the institutions of kingship, in that case in San Salvador, to cushion the impact of the colonial state. And it may be that at this level, the chiefs do play an important role as well, because the chiefs also have a stake in preventing the kingship at the heart of the nuclear kingdom from being too oppressive. I wonder if you would comment on this situation, on these two kinds of different patterns. Thank you.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with the first development of, say, colonial rule undermining or corrupting the royal office. Chiefs using kingship to cushion the impact of colonial rule. That's something I would have to think about. What was going on, and that is also then in response to Professor White's comments, and in relation to the point about indirect rule. Portuguese basically had no clue how to rule northern Angola. They had all sorts of policies on paper, they wrote out laws, but when it came down to implementing these things, particularly once they wanted to implement labor recruitment, they targeted that particular area, but they had really not a policy in place to start recruiting. So what they did was invite the king and say, can you help us? And the king said yes, and would rely on his lesser chiefs to start recruiting, except that, of course, the process went awfully wrong. But you see in the response of the workers themselves that if they complain to the chiefs and ask the chiefs to talk with the king, and in order for the king to talk with the Portuguese. And in that sense, yeah, maybe that's the counterpart of it. That also, when complaints are made, you work through the king back to the Portuguese regime. I don't know if that is sort of the way you suggest your point.
I think we have time for maybe one more question.
I just have an observation and a question. The observation is that the situation in Kongo doesn't sound a whole lot different medically than the situation that I live with in Los Angeles, in which, now, with one important exception. The exception being that in Los Angeles it's a matter of choice. Most people can afford some kind of biomed assistance, but most people that I know count on counter therapies. Biomed doesn't have a great rep among a certain level of bourgeois in the United States, and I realize that that's not the American situation. But I think that twofold thing, that biomed / something else, may not be just an African phenomenon or a Congo phenomenon. I think it might be more general. But you can comment on that. The question I have regarding the chieftaincy comes from Louise saying that she's glad she didn't hear anything about indirect rule. But honestly, I didn't hear anything in either of the presentations that sounded very different from the Lord Lugard model in northern Nigeria. So I want to know how this is not like British indirect chieftaincy.
It fits, it follows the shape of indirect rule, but indirect rule, as the term is used now, is this kind of top-down phenomena where chiefs do colonial spinning. And I think in his wildest dreams, that's what Lord Lugard wanted. In fact, we see chiefs here, you know, they're looking for the opportunity. I mean, they're shaping policy as much as they can. They're much more involved in the Lugard there's also no such thing as kind of iconic indirect rule, but they're really, really involved. They're not just, they're maybe not involved in the process of rule, but they're sure as hell involved in the process of establishing their place in it.
Well, I would still say northern Nigeria represents a pretty similar example.
Northern Nigeria probably came up with indirect rule. And, you know, I mean, I doubt if Lugard had the idea all by himself.
All right.
I think.
Can I address that? The difference is that there's no colonizer left. And I think the difference is that there's no colonizer now. And this raises the state that's there is in Ferguson's terms, a shadow state. And it will sort of come and slap you if you do something really bad, but otherwise it's missing. Now, this means scholars have generally failed to understand what happens in a power vacuum situation. And that's what we have a lot of in the DRC region, power vacuum. And so sort of ad hoc social control kinds of things and Kongo kinds of organizations pop up, and local authorities struggle to figure out how to maintain control. And I don't know, Nyanzungu is close to the situation of what happened in 2008 when the local government called in the military to stop the craziness, witch burnings and mob actions and so forth. I mean, so the difference is that we're dealing here with a power vacuum at the top, and that's the big difference. So you can't have indirect rule if there's nothing ruling. And I don't know if people have comments on that.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut us off. We're going to take a very brief coffee break. If you can try to get back on schedule, try to keep the coffee break to about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll be back here for the next panel. Thank you.